In this video, I'm going to be talking about 5 watches that no one ever buys. Now, of course, someone must have purchased them at some point, otherwise they wouldn't exist out there for people trying to sell them or dealers trying to sell them. So some people do buy them, but in my experience over the last 15 years, these watches sit forever, and even at sometimes 80% off retail, they are just so difficult to move. Dealers know this. I saw this at Del Rey Watch when I owned it along with Federico, and I see it across the board. So I'm going to be sharing with you these 5 watches, which also could be really good for you, because if you do like them, you can buy them very low, and there's more leverage for you to get a better price and haggle with someone trying to sell one, now knowing that people rarely buy these watches, albeit decent watches or good watches, but hard to sell, but better to buy. Before we do that, guys, please do not forget to check out chronograbs.com, where you can buy and sell watches at 0% commission and 0 listing fees. We've got a private parties section where people are doing trades. There's micro brands, there's Rolex, there's so many things. And we also have a trusted dealer section where you can get some watches at a discount from other places because of the way that we handle just a handful of select dealers that I know and trust and I know are going to deliver for you. So there's no hassle, no headaches. And we got so many different models covered. We got about 1,000 different watches pre-owned on the site. We got a news section. And also, if you do sign up now, you'll be entered to win for a drawing. And I did one of these a few months ago. I've mentioned it in previous videos where I gave away a Tudor Black Bay. Someone in Texas did win it. And, we're probably going to be giving away either a Tudor Black Bay again, or maybe an older Omega Seamaster Bond or something kind of in that range. So it's a really great deal. We got just over 3,700 registered members. We get over 100,000 visitors per month. So whether you're looking to sell your watch, get offers from dealers, private parties, we can help you shop it out. Or if you just want to sign up for a free account to lock in your place to win potentially this watch that we're going to be giving away very soon. More details to come in the future, but just go ahead and sign up for a free account over at chronograbs.com to lock it in now. So the first watch that no one ever buys, and this has not changed in the last 15 years at all, this is a Parmigiani Fleurier Pershing. Now, if you're familiar with Pershing, or maybe if you're not familiar with Pershing, they manufacture high-end yachts and boats. If you're in kind of the nautical world, then you probably know this. It's very high-end. So this is a collaboration that Parmigiani Fleurier, really high-end manufacturer for the most part, increasingly so as time goes on, that they did with this yacht company. Now, this is kind of the equivalent of a Breitling Bentley, right? It's like people like Parmigiani Fleurier, people like Breitling. But then when you start doing these collaborations and the watch really starts to take shape or form or starts to look like or pull aesthetic from something that's not the brand of the watch manufacturer, but instead the brand or the model of a car or a boat in this case, it starts to kind of take away from a watch collector wanting the watch and more of, maybe the person that likes the boat, or, to use kind of the analogy or comparison of the Breitling Bentley, someone that likes the Bentley car. And it didn't work for Breitling Bentley, really. People bought them, but they trade up for pennies on the dollar. And the same goes for the Parmigiani Fleurier Pershing line. Now, an interesting story about this, if you know O.J. Watley, a friend of mine, he was the original founder of Watch You Want, turned into Watchbox, and I was the chief technology officer consultant for the Watchbox, back in the day before Del Rey Watch. And so, I had heard so many stories from him of the earliest days of trading watches, 20 years ago going back. And he has a story where he had a bunch of these he bought at closeout, and he took it to the yacht show here in Fort Lauderdale or Miami Beach, and he set up a table in front of the Pershing display of the yachts that they had, and he couldn't give them away. No one looked at them. They didn't want to see what they were, and he just came back with these 10, 15 Parmigiani Fleurier Pershing watches, and nobody wanted them. And so they're cool watches, and you can buy them at a steal of a price, but they just don't sell. Let me know what you think. Comments below. Now, takes us into a brand that I think is unfortunate, but it's just the company that owns, or the holding company that owns this brand, in my opinion, is just not pushing it hard enough, because they're getting wins with their H. Moser brand, which we all, or most of us, probably love and enjoy and know is high quality. The same company owns Hautlence. Now, Hautlence makes an avant-garde, high-end kind of almost in the style or the vein of Richard Mille in many ways, though significantly different. They are known for more rectangle shapes as opposed to kind of the tonneau shape. So kind of almost like a sideways Richard Mille in a way. They have some other types of watches as well in their collections, more circular or traditionally styled watches. But I'm even wearing one today. I've got a Hautlence Invictus on my wrist. And I have to say that this watch actually came from Delray Watch when I was there as one of the owners, and no one bought it. It sat for years and years and years to the point where it got down to a price so low to where I was like, I just can't turn this down. It's a great watch. It's very comfortable. It wears nice. It's got a unique shape. It's high end. It's from the same owners of H. Moser. So they're doing a really great job, and they put in really great parts, and there's nice finishing, and it's unique. And you get these watches for sometimes, like 75% off of retail, which in my opinion is such great horological value. Now, Hautlence has continued to increase their prices over time and, seemingly improved their designs in many ways and made them more attractive potentially to more people. But because of that, I think people are probably buying them even less, of course, unless you get a phenomenal deal. So Hautlence, cool brand to check out if you want some high-end horology with bang for buck, but they do sell very slow. So if you ever had to sell the watch, it's going to be really difficult unless you give it away. Now that takes us into a brand that is pretty much dead, though the designer of this brand has done collaborations with, Louis Girard and many others, MB&F over the years, and Bell & Ross, and this is Alain Silberstein. Now, Alain Silberstein is an architect and designer by trade, and he came out with a watch brand. He started with more approachable, kind of, religious-inspired designs initially, mostly kind of like Israel or Jewish watches. He'd introduce a lot of themes kind of from the faith or the heritage and the culture into the watches. And then he kind of branched out and came up with these quirky avant-garde designs with, the tri-colorway, the yellow, the reds, the blues, kind of these eccentric watches. They're generally big and chunky, and they're fun, and they're very high quality. But the reality is there are just so many of them out there, and that goes to show that people just don't really buy them. This is a watch brand in general that always was really difficult to sell, and sometimes people would buy them if the price is just so low. It's kind of like a nice, fun, casual wear. Depending on the watch, you can maybe pick one up for $2,000, maybe $2,500. There was quite an influx of buyers when we saw the watch craze and rush happen over the last 6 years or whatever, but it's kind of tapered down, and now it's back to a point where there's just so many out there, and people kind of went through them, and it lost the buzz, it lost the bandwagon. It didn't turn out to be like Daniel Roth did or some of the other, overlooked originally independent watch brands. But very cool, very fun, quirky. They've got a Christmas watch out there. They've got different kind of watches for different occasions. They've got tourbillons. They've got some ultra high end. They got some, more reasonably priced watches. Cool. People just generally don't really buy them very much. Now that takes us into a Rolex, and people do buy this, but certainly not near to how they buy rose or yellow gold in this watch model. And this is the Rolex Day-Date in white gold. Now, when it comes to the white gold Day-Date, this is kind of what people call stealth wealth, right? If you see a solid yellow or rose gold or pink gold Rolex or any watch for that matter, as long as it's solid gold, that does convey a certain message. It's like, okay, that costs a lot of money. That's, a very expensive watch, even if the watch isn't of high quality, but it's Rolex, so it is a quality watch. And so there's so much value tied up in that. And people that buy gold watches oftentimes want to convey that message. And when it comes to the white gold Day-Date, it looks like stainless steel. Now, to a trained eye up close and you feel it's going to be heavier, yes, you'll get the idea. So among watch collectors, they might know that it's white gold. But among casual buyers, predominantly, this watch is just unattractive because it looks the same, especially at a bit of a distance, as something like a stainless steel watch. And if you're going to be paying whatever it is, $50,000, $60,000, potentially how new the watch is, well, wouldn't you maybe want it to be in something that's going to be a little bit more recognizable? I personally don't care, because I don't actually really want to attract people looking at my watch. I think it only could introduce problems for the most part, but the people that buy it a lot of times do. And I will put a caveat on this one. The white gold, solid white gold watches, including the Rolex Day-Date, they do pretty well in Islamic countries because, and if there's anyone out there that is of this faith, please chime in below if I'm, butchering this or getting it wrong. But I believe wearing, for most of Islam, wearing gold is considered haram or bad. You're not supposed to do it. It's a little bit flashy. I know, the Old Testament talks about this as well, about, kind of wearing, like flashy things, or, I'm losing the terminology here as it's said in the Bible. But, back to Islam here, in these countries, for maybe someone that is not totally following, their faith or the way that they interpret it, they might just get the white gold Day-Date because it's not going to, stand out. It's not going to be too flashy. It's not going to be in your face. It's not going to rub the people in their circles or around them in that type of a way. And I've, even dealt with, different customers back at Delray Watch who would call in, and they'd be in various countries. They'd be, from Qatar or elsewise, and they just didn't want to attract that kind of attention for these reasons. Instead, they wanted, certain watches in white gold, whether it be Patek Philippe or a Rolex or an A. Lange & Söhne. And so the white gold Day-Date, given these exceptions, really just doesn't have a big demand for it. And lastly, this takes us into Harry Winston. Now, Harry Winston does make very high-end, very fine watches, oftentimes of incredible complications and mastery. Some of these watches can fetch up to hundreds of thousands of dollars, but they have had many lines over the years, especially their sportier lines, where people just don't buy them. They think Harry Winston, they're thinking diamonds, stones, jewels, necklaces, and that's oftentimes the problem sometimes when jewelry manufacturers get into watches. They're not really known for it. It's not necessarily their customer base or their client base. They're selling, essentially ladies' jewelry for the most part. And so the brands are really hoping that a guy just happens to be in there with his, significant other, or his wife or his girlfriend, whatever, and then sees the watch, and it's kind of an impulse buy. Oh, honey, you bought me this necklace. Why don't you pick up this watch for yourself? That's kind of where they're going for this, and they're not necessarily focused on, enthusiasts or people that are going to walk in just to buy a watch like you would see out of just a watch brand, right? Like a JLC or a Panerai or a Rolex for that matter. That's what they do, is they make watches. Harry Winston makes a lot of different things for a lot of different people, and it's just not watch collectors for the most part. Chanel actually does this as well. They've got, some high-end watches that they make for themselves in some of the factories that are co-owned by their brand. And, while they're cool and they're nice and they're, pretty good quality, people just don't buy them because it relies on a casual purchaser walking in and buying it. And I've never heard of anyone saying, I'm saving up for a Harry Winston, or I'm saving up for a Chanel. It's just not something that happens very often, if ever. But guys, what do you think about these 5 watches that people just don't like to buy? Are there any others? Did I leave any out of the list? Please leave that down in the comments below. I make sure to go through the comments as frequently as possible. And also, do not forget to go over to chronograbs.com right now and sign up for a free account. Make sure to post the watches if you have that you want to sell. Glad to help you get the best price there among the dealers that I know want to buy it. And also, you'll be entered to win the drawing that I'm going to be announcing pretty soon, within the next couple of weeks. Once we kind of pick out the watch, there'll be a pop-up, you'll see it, and you will be registered to win just by going and signing up for the account. We'll see you next time. You've been chatting with John P.